article Forrest did was a really good article.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That was
which had no
awesome.
mention whatsoever of any names
I'm always
in the
cold,
district.
so I'm pleasantly surprised. Are you? They'll probably turn the air on and it'll freeze us out.
Probably. But I'll say nothing then. Very satisfying read.
I think you understand that.
Oh, God. I mean, that's one of a kind.
Yeah. I got a message from him. Did you get one yesterday? He said he wasn't going to talk tonight. He was just gonna, yeah.
Okay, you all ready?
You guys good?
Are y'all ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
No, we're only taking 30. Yep. Ready? We call this board meeting of the Nelson County Board of Education to order on March 21st, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Please join McKenna Reed, student from Thomas Nelson High School, as they lead us in the pledge. All stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated, please. Our next item on the agenda is our agenda and meeting goals, and that would be Superintendent Bradley.
Welcome to Thomas Nelson High School for our March 21st regular meeting. Tonight there are a number of agenda items, two key items. We'll be learning about some of the current signals of success that is driving Thomas Nelson High School. We'll also be revisiting the bus maintenance design and the Nelson County Campus Master Plan as a part of next strategic decision making. We have also added the bourbon barrel tax discussion, just to update the board as we end tonight.
Thank you. Our next item is Thomas Nelson High School Student Showcase and Data Dashboard. Mr. Minifield.
Just to provide some context to the community tonight, each month as we travel throughout the district, we're asking schools to continue to think about the local community-based accountability process where we continue to look at the signals of success that drive us. Thomas Nelson will be presenting tonight on some of those signals.
All right, well, this is getting set up and presented for everyone. Thank you all for being here today. Looks glad we had enough chairs for everyone. I appreciate you all making your way to Thomas Nelson to continue to engage in these conversations regarding what's best for students and also these signals of success, what we are looking to create as far as student experiences, as we know that students drive the learning experiences within the schools, whether that be with scheduling, whether that be with place-based experiences, whether that be with whatever we offer or look to offer, we look to them as the first dancers in what we create here. So I'd like everyone should have in their seats a little pamphlet, and if you will flip to the back, I think this will be the best way to start and kick off our conversation. I will only be up here for a little time. Really, today is about the students showcasing the work that they've done through challenge teams. So I can pass some up here as well to make sure that we have our board members have some as well too.
Thank you. Thank you. We're good. Thank you.
Good deal. All right, so if you look at the back, this is really a tale of two schools, and I have to thank Miss Rucci for the design on here. Really, I just come up with some ideas, and she is able to turn my garbled mess into really beautiful art. So I want to appreciate her for doing that. If you look at what I'd like you to do is the people around you, you might know who's next to you, you might not. It'll be a good chance to connect with the people around you. Just look at School A and the opportunities that are provided at School A. You'll take some time to look at School B and the opportunities that are provided within School B. And then just engage in some conversation with our question here, given the opportunity, where do you want your child to attend? So let's take about 2 minutes just to engage with the people around you, looking at the indicators there from School A and School B, and then we will circle back in just a minute. So 2-3 minutes.
You're doing a great job. Let's engage. Do it. This is the design. And I think it's, yeah.
I'm good. I can sit here. The mic's on.
We'll take just a couple more seconds, finish up some conversation. All right, so I won't have you all yell out answers or anything like that. We'll just do show of hands. That's easiest today. So, by show of hands, if between the two, where do you want your child to attend, you are choosing or selecting School A, please raise your hands. Okay, we got some hands. There we go. School B, raise your hands. All right, so almost everyone participating here. So, no matter what school you chose, these are both, at some point or another, Thomas Nelson High School. So I've been here for 9 years. This is actually its 10th year. You've seen pictures from 10 years of Flying Closer. So this is a decade of our leaders and our students and our generals flying closer to the sun. School A really represents the ideals and thoughts of Thomas Nelson High School circa 2016, 2017, when you're really driven by state accountability and pleasing lawmakers. School B is a little bit more of a student-centered approach when you think about a community-based education in 2022. When you allow students to drive the learning experiences, you'll be hearing from our change agents today as they talk about how they have been a vital part of the discussion of the experiences built in our school, and also making sure that we create lasting opportunities for students moving forward, where students have been an integral piece of the voice there.
You want to transition to the presentation?
That would be great. So
I was going to say, before you transition, there's a box there that says state rankings. They're empty. What were the state rankings of School A and School B?
So School A, and you'll see a picture of it in a little bit, it was a school of distinction. We were 7th in the state during that time. And School B, could have changed shirt colors here, it was orange or low.
Thanks.
So this pamphlet is also helpful to guide you during the presentation today. I'm going to kick us off, and then I'm going to hand it to Miss Amy Rucci, who's going to help us do a deep dive into our data dashboard. And then from there, our student challenge teams will really be taking the lead in discussing what questions they explored and what were the signals of success and benefits that they were hoping to get out of this experience here. So as you look at the inside, this really talks a little bit about the benefits that were explored by each challenge team, as well as what signals of success we were hoping to identify. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, this is the 10th year that Thomas Nelson has been around, so we've been flying closer for 10 years now. As you can see, our leaders, we got together in August celebrating our work together as we thought about what experiences we wanted to build for generals in the 2022-2023 school year. And before I talk about how those conversations have evolved, if you've ever walked through our commons, I think a year ago, we actually had the board meeting in the commons. You'll see our shields. So you can see athletic and club shields around the gym. In the commons, we have our academic shields. And we like to celebrate those. I mean, 2015, 2016, we have our school distinction, TEL survey. You'll see a lot of other things on there as we continue to highlight and showcase achievements at our school. And again, as we think through this, the focus on those, when I think about back to where I was a science teacher during those times, practicing towards an EOC, making sure that students were prepped for that EOC so we could achieve really great scores, which we did, on the EOC. And if that's what you focus on every year, like School A did in 2016, it's easy to reach. You see what you seek. But as schools evolve and they realize that it's not really lawmakers who you are trying to make sure that you put their best interest forwards, it's the students, some of which are right here today, that should really drive the experiences. What allows them to fly closer today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in a world that is exponentially changing and evolving? So I'll give you a minute to read this. It comes back to measuring what matters. As the world changes at an exponential rate, it is vital that schools look to customize education and make it uniquely local, because the needs of each and individual child are changing at a rapid rate, and with that, our jobs as educators change and evolve, and they have to change and evolve at an even faster rate, not just to keep up, to be ahead of the game. So knowing what you're measuring and measuring what matters locally is important. So what does that look like? Well, one of our benefits that we want to create at Thomas Nelson High School, rigorous, meaningful, and cognitively vibrant academic and career pathway experiences. This was our team meeting over the summer. We had Dan Joyner come in, and we were really, this was during Care Camp. This is when we really think about what's best for the students at Thomas Nelson High School. There's some academic discussion there, but it really revolves around Care and Connect, community tables, building those relationships. You have a lot of new leaders coming into the building. You want to ensure that they start strong with their group of students to build lasting relationships for 4 years. Powerful and personal connections with community partners and places of work. One of my sophomores, hey Aiden, would you stand up for a second, please? He's in my Care and Connect, so I get to pick on him. All right, he also has a tennis match versus Bethlehem, so we got to get him out here pretty soon. Can you talk a little bit about Operation Prep and that experience that you had during Operation Prep and how that was beneficial to you?
It was just where a bunch of community partners and people out in the workforce in the community would all come together to Thomas Nelson, and they would share their experiences within the workplace, and we would all get to kind of experience it through them to let us know like what we wanted to do in the future and just give us ideas on what we wanted to do.
Thank you, Aiden. So yes, spending half a day, all of our sophomores got to connect with 3 community partners whose careers align with what our sophomores at the time believed their future story is set up to be. So if you're wanting to be an engineer, we tried to tie you to 3 different engineers. If you're wanting to go into health sciences, trying to get a nurse practitioner, and other community partners. We had over 55 community partners volunteer their time to connect with our sophomores for half a day to engage in these meaningful conversations. Meaningful connections with other students, teachers, coaches throughout the school. Who's going to be a brave junior for me? There we go, I see a hand up. Carly, will you talk a little bit about this experience and what you were looking forward to as a junior?
Okay, so at my school, I think it's the same at most of schools, but the seniors hold a really big part in the school community. And thanks to the environment at Thomas Nelson, the grades are really able to intermingle and become friends and become partners with one another. And the torchlight ceremony really just symbolizes, figuratively and literally, seniors passing the torch to the juniors and letting them become the new leaders of the school.
So as we think about building exponential caretaking experiences within a school to deepen relationships, not just between teacher and student, but between student and student, experiences like Torchlight, like laying the foundation, these are all integral parts of the fabric of Thomas Nelson High School. And then lastly, after a 4-year journey, we want to ensure that we are preparing seniors for a successful transition to life. For every single graduate, even early graduates, sometimes it's a junior that's graduating early. When you walked in, if you accidentally walked in through the front, you got to the door and you're like, dang, it's locked, I gotta go around to the side. You saw those bricks that were there. So for 10 years now, students have been laying their brick at Thomas Nelson High School to become part of the foundation and the fabric of the school. This is a very powerful message, especially when we bring 8th graders into the building to discuss what it looks like to be a 9th grader. They have to walk in that front door. And it's very easy to point out, every single one of you will have your name in the foundation of Thomas Nelson High School. What legacy do you want to leave? Well, it's important for us to ensure that the experiences we create allow them to share whatever gifts they have to ensure that we've made sure that they have had every opportunity to let their gifts be shown, to contribute to our school community, and to offer what they can before they leave us. So with that, I do want to talk a little bit more about individualized learning. When we think about dual credit opportunities, from 2019 to 2020, you can see what offerings look like. Where classrooms, when we think about that exponential change, being able to leverage partners like Western Kentucky, Murray State, ECTC, as we continue to lean on those partnerships and prepare students for free college credits, you can see the exponential change in just one single building when you let students drive the scheduling process. The reason we've been able to change so much is because students are craving and requesting dual credit courses so they have a leg up when they go into college. It's also helped that through CTE workforce grants and scholarships through the state, that they've allowed schools to provide scholarships to students for dual credit courses as well. When you think about work-based learning experience, it did not look like this when I was teaching. As I've shifted into the role as an administrator, this number continues to grow with the great work started by David Mudd and continued with the help of Ms. Durbin and Ms. Conley here at Thomas Nelson. We've seen 91% of our seniors currently engaged in profession-based experiences. We're partnered with over 140 community partners, and it was really great to see the president. When you think about KDE, the president at the Kentucky Council for Post-Secondary Education, put this post up. When you think about not just seniors, but 100% of students in high school having a place-based experience during their time in high school, that's his goal. So it's not just local here. We may be leading the way, but it is not just a local thing. This is an initiative at the state level too, because they see the opportunity with equity and inclusion for all students. And in the end, like I said, it comes down to the students. Every single one of these graduates, while they walk across the same stage, they all have very different paths after that graduation date. And it's important that we continue to find ways to individualize learning, make sure that we take a community-based approach, and we are unique, and we are proactive and progressive in what we do as a school and as a district to ensure that whatever path they take, they're equipped with the tools to be successful and contributing members of the society. So with that, I thought, oh, and it takes leaders like this to make it happen too. I tried to sneak that in there, I forgot. So with that, I've spoken way too much. Miss Amy Rucci is going to talk a little bit about our data dashboard, how we came to create these challenge teams, and then we're handing over to the important people of the day, our students.
So I, like Mr. Merrifield, have been fortunate enough to be here for 9 years. In this place, I've got to experience so many things in terms of also me feeling uncomfortable and learning to grow, just as much as we require of our students. So for these last 10 years, before I was even here, our main focus, our vision, has been about care, connect, and create. And just this fall, we were going through and asking some questions of our leaders and getting some feedback about what we think needs to be addressed. And from there, we had students involved. Come on. Oops. Sorry. So we have our care team, which is a team that I work with. And my care team is made up of 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and 2 juniors. And together, we've been looking at data, student voice data, and looking at where we notice some gaps and where we can work on areas. Then we have our Connect group, led by Mr. Smith. And we have our Create group, led by Mr. Merrifield. So if I can ask our Care group to come on up, please. The Care group is going to be working on, obviously, the Care tab. And then if I can next have the Connect group. You guys can kind of be like a little huddle. It'd be lovely. And then lastly, the Create group. All right. How do I make this good? Yeah. So this is just a splash page for our data dashboard. Yes, how do I navigate to it? You just click that for us. It's linked. It's linked. There we go. Thank you guys so much. So on the home page of our dashboard is all the nitty-gritty data that people like to look at and want to know about, which is important. So much of this data is the data that Mr. Merrifield mentioned in his portion of his presentation, talking about graduation rate and what that looks like compared to the state. Blue line is Thomas Nelson, the red line is the state. Percent of students that have met post-secondary readiness indicators. He talked about that before in terms of our class of 23 and where they are with their PBE. Historical post-secondary readiness trends, basically the same data, just in a different type of chart. And you can see where it skyrocketed there, lower down there due to COVID. Percent of students that have taken at least one dual credit class. You see the increase here, and that is more than likely due to the grants and scholarships that are provided to us from the state. And then how many dual credit courses are students completing each year? And you can see how that is beginning to increase. How many AP courses are students enrolled in? Well, you can see that there's a decline on here. Can anybody guess why that might be? Because of the dual credit, exactly. Now, but we can tell you, we had a wonderful experience for our students this year where they got to do some exploratory classes, and because of that, our AP chemistry course requests are huge. In the past, 6. This year, at least 23. And then we're looking at percent of students that are engaged in a student leadership course. We believe that this number might be a little bit low because I don't think that Yeti 401 has been included in this, as well as general store, peer leader, or general leader. But we're in the process of getting all that part updated, but this is where we're at there. And of course, our leader values are things that we aspire to every single day, not only as students, but as leaders. All right, my care group, are you guys ready? Deep breath. It'll be okay. All right, who's starting first? All right, Miss Carly.
So, my note card's upside down. So, every day at Thomas Nelson, we start our day with our Care and Connects. Our Care and Connect is one of the main ways that students and leaders are able to form relationships and show care to one another. We all work diligently to ensure that our Care and Connect plays a large role in our school lives. Through General Serve, the Care Commitment Ceremony, and Feast of Thanks, and so many other opportunities, Thomas Nelson is built around the care that we show for each other during our Care and Connect.
Hi, I'm Ava Donahue, and I'm going to be touching on why transitioning is important from 8th grade to freshman year. Transitioning is a huge part of feeling cared for by the schools. First impressions to the student, it needs to be a positive experience, having opportunities such as Project Watto, with students getting to tour the school. Housewarming for feeder schools is also a great opportunity for incoming 8th graders to get to know their Care and Connect and feel comfortable when joining the school. It's important to feel cared for during your transition as you're able to thrive during your high school career.
So, in the care team, we discussed the importance that Care and Connect has on students in Thomas Nelson. The relationships built in Care and Connect go beyond the classroom. You're spending every day for the next 4 years together every morning, and these bonds are some of the healthiest that I have and some of the strongest that I have as well. They get me out of my comfort zone and make me try new things. And these roles go beyond just your peers, but they go on to leaders and community partners as well. And the impact on the community that Care and Connect has is very, tremendous. Through General Serve, I worked at a community park, and we put on wind blockers for a tennis court. And Miss Willis, her Care and Connect, partnered up with a local nursing home, and yeah.
I'm Javon Butler, and I'm a sophomore here at Thomas Nelson High School. I am here to talk about the solutions or more things we can add to make our experience better. Care and Connect is a way to build bonds with others. In some ways, it can cause no communication. We as a group have talked about adding more opportunities to create a more meaningful experience. Now, we have brother and sister Care and Connects, which allows students who do not talk to one another to create. Adding cousin Care and Connects to be beneficial and help more people attending Thomas Nelson High School to become more comfortable. This could also help transition easier if we add it to feeder schools. We all participate in General Serve that builds care for our peers and community. Adding more customer service could build a better economy and school atmosphere. These solutions will help Nelson County Schools' possibilities be endless.
So I do want to kind of brag on these kiddos here, well, young adults, excuse me. We took a lot of time really looking at the data beyond just these two pie charts. So it was interesting to some of the conversations we had. It was neat to kind of hear some of their perspectives. So I'm going to pass this on to Mr. Smith's group, in which they are Connect.
All right, I'm Sean Smith. I'm one of the other assistant principals here. We are on the Connect tab here, so you're in the right spot, Mr. Bradley. We are kind of looking at this group. When they formed, they had some questions in mind, and what was at the forefront of their mind was, we need to hear from the student body itself. So one of the big things they did back in the fall was contribute to our winter culture survey. That's something we give every year. They created about 5 to 6 questions, modified some other questions that they felt was pertinent to be asked of our student body. So they helped craft that questionnaire that all students took. We received that data, and that's when our team really came to work on some signals of success when we think about the Connect indicator. So as you can see up here, the data on this dashboard, the big question that came out of the Winter Culture Survey was, what percentage of generals report a strong connection to their school and Nelson County community? We saw that was around 80% agreed with that sentiment. We also had some questions about taking care of this place. Again, some of those pieces were very high, but this group wants to make sure that we reach max benefit for all students in our building. So two big things that we were looking at is, how do we ensure that we're taking care of this place properly? And then how are we leveraging Care and Connect for interventions for students that need some support with academic or behavioral needs? So I am going to have Ms. Holly Smith talk for a moment about kind of what those meetings have been like over the past 4 or 5 meetings.
Holly Smith. I'm in my 7th year here at Thomas Nelson. Thank you all for coming, and thanks for listening to these wonderful students up here. I appreciate that. Part of what we've discussed over the past several months has been a wide variety of students. We have some high flyers in our group. We have some students that are not necessarily our high flyers. So we're getting voices and we're getting opinions from a wide variety of students. And so some of those things we've discussed with these with this data that we've collected has been interesting to see the perspective from a student that's a high flyer versus a perspective of a student who maybe gets some care forms and finds themselves in some trouble. And so getting to see different perspectives of those students has been really, really kind of humbling to me because everybody has a different story. So with that being said, I'll let these two young ladies talk about what they want to speak about momentarily here. Ainsley, Ella.
Good evening, board members and families. My name is Ella Buddy, and I'm a sophomore at Thomas Nelson High School. Over the past couple of months, us as a team have been going through data regarding student safeties in the bathroom and classrooms. At the beginning of semester 2, we as a school community started a program called eHall Pass that has tremendously decreased the number of incidents and behaviors that are taking place in the bathrooms of Thomas Nelson. Another discussion that has been brought up in our Connect Challenge group is an idea of taking more care of this place by the students and leaders of our school community. To help with taking care of this place, we as a team came up with an idea of a bi-monthly task for Care and Connects to become responsible for one location in our school building where Care and Connects will reorganize and clean to help increase the amount of student bodies taking care of this place. Now I'd like to introduce Ainsley Cosgrove, another member of the Connect Challenge group.
My name is Ainsley Cosgrove. Today I'm talking about the community caretaking system and behavior in the student body. Our community tries to connect however we can, to our greatest extent. For example, the General Serve. We help out at schools, nursing homes, and picking up trash at local parks. PBE Experiences is another great example. It helps kids get real-world experiences and prepares them for their future story. General Serve helps give back to our community partners and shows them we can help them to our greatest ability. Now to our second topic, which is our behavior in the student body. We have looked through data, and our behavior ranges. What stands out is boys have the majority of care forms. To help this problem, Big Littles would introduce how behavior and grades could improve on the littles or the underclassmen. The upperclassmen could be a mentor. It could help them or everyone by knowing someone is there for them. It could help them improve in the future. This initiative could help future generations to come. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And this team, their work is going to continue past this board meeting, thinking about ways that we can also interact with our local SBDM and see how some of these awesome ideas could make their way in the care book, present that to local SBDM, so really student voices are heard. I'm going to pass it over to the Create team. This is our last student challenge group, so I'm going to hand it to Ms. Shields.
Hannah Shields, I'm the Future Story Support Leader. I've been here 3 years, student for 3 years, if that counts, so 6 years altogether. So we had the CREATE team, and our scales or signals of success were about creating meaningful opportunities for our students, identifying some gaps that we saw, and how can we create some programs and opportunities in the coming years. So our first data point is what percentage of generals are engaged and challenged in their learning experiences in TNHS. About 76.4% agree. 17.4 neutral, and then 6.2% disagree. And then, is that the only one in there? Okay, and then I'll just read the question for the second signal. We're talking about finding value in the experiences provided at TNHS, so our students can speak about that as well. So the first student I'm going to hand it off to is Miss Emma Thompson.
Okay, so my name is Emma Thompson. I'm a sophomore. So we started off asking 2 questions. So our first question was, what is the purpose of school? And then our second one was, what is the future demand of us? And we feel that the purpose of school is so students can engage and we can create more opportunities for the students in the school that are going to help them in school, out of school, and after high school. And then for what is the future demand of us, we feel that we should advocate for our needs and other students' needs so their futures are the best they can possibly be.
One thing here that defines like what we need to do and like how we can better ourselves for the future 5 or 10 years down the line is course offerings. Thanks to classes such as the engineering collab, I found out that I want to pursue the line of mechanical engineering by going to the University of Kentucky. I feel it can help any student find where they belong, not only in the community, but just in the world as a place.
My name is Aiden Bowles, and one thing my group talked about was how we could improve the classroom experience. And what we came up with was to improve the effectiveness of schools helping students learn. Teachers should have more engagement in the classroom, make personal connections with students, and allow students to learn more socially through group projects and hands-on learning. This will make the classroom a much more authentic learning environment and help prepare students for their lives after high school.
Hi, I'm McKenna Reed. I'm a sophomore here at Thomas Nelson. And recently in our CREATE group, we have talked about engagement in schools. And we've talked about how we can improve the engagement in our schools. We're wanting to improve engagement in classes, but not just in classes, in extracurriculars as well, such as clubs, sports, and that's really it. We're still continuing our work with this, and we are really hoping to improve investment in our school communities.
Let's give all of these students one more round of applause as they head on. I know some are going to be running to Bardstown courts for a tennis match, but they are all awesome first dancers taking a leap of faith here. So one more little round of applause for the kids. As we summarize the experiences here, I think the kids said it is best. There's nothing really to add other than if you reference back to School A versus School B, one opportunity that Jacob alluded to that was not present for School A was this engineering collab and the collabs throughout all of the district. And if Jacob will come up here, at Kisti, the engineering collab was actually presented with a $10,000 check through the outreach grant. So while it had to be filed by one school, this is definitely a partnership between the 2 high schools. Ms. Call and Ms. Sokolsky are right there too. This work and this grant could not have been done without the work of both Thomas Nelson and Nelson County students thinking innovatively using laser engravers, 3D printers. So just one big shout out. This will help the engineering collab really set the tone for the next 5 years as they figure out what they want to continue to create for our community. So thank you all. So I guess I should ask if there's any questions before I let the kids run loose. I've learned.
Thank you guys for taking time tonight, because I know you guys are all busy with schedules after school. So thank you guys for being here and sharing the work that you all are doing as students within the building, as well as your leaders too. Thank you guys.
So just real quick question, just quick show of hands. Freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors? I think Ms. Shields, we can let you, I mean, you're kind of the extended senior, and because you know you were part of this community as a student, now you've come back as a staff member. You know, one thing in talking with students sometimes, I hear, gosh, I hate the thing about the hoodies. All right, that's always one of them. Sometimes also hear, oh, this Care and Connect thing. You know. So those of you that are freshmen or sophomore, what's something that as you came into this school community that the Care and Connect opportunity really provided to you? Any of you that are freshmen, sophomore, just want to shout out, yell out, whatever.
Speak up. You gotta speak up.
Yeah, you're going to have to yell loud or you're going to have to run over there.
Just
So I switched from Bullitt County School District over here to Nelson County School District, and knowing absolutely like nobody here, Parent Connect was a good way for me to find people, and also they kind of helped me find my classes and where I could get around the school.
Okay. Yeah.
Care and Connect has really helped me open up and become more social. I've always been really, closed off to myself, wanted to succeed on my own and accomplish my dreams on my own, but Care and Connect has allowed me to grow and to put my trust into others and take in all the information I can so I can advance and get to a higher level.
You could fool all of us on your comfort level tonight.
So I'm from Louisville in a private school, so transitioning was really hard for me going from private to public school. And the community that Care and Connect created was just amazing to get introduced to everyone. It was just really helpful.
So you moved to Nelson County from Louisville?
Yes.
Okay. And so was it to come to Thomas Nelson High School?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a good connection there. And I'll go to the most senior of the people, Ms. Shields. So you were a student here. You were part of a Care and Connect family, correct? Okay.
Leader advisory.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was like once a week on Fridays. I think
Yeah.
Miss Duke was nice. Yeah.
So, just looking at it then from someone from an upperclassman perspective, I mean, what's your perspective on what an upperclassman gets out of this?
Out of Care and Connect, I think it's a great opportunity for them to mentor younger students, for them to really excel in leadership, and kind of help the younger, like underclassmen, find their way, and also lead by example in the group.
Kind of goes along with what some of the freshmen and sophomore were saying too, and having that connection with someone else in the school. So,
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is our guest comments. I'd like to read you this. Over the past 2 regular meetings, this board has heard hours of comments from numerous people invested in our school district, and we are grateful for their time in providing us with their thoughts on various issues. This board will continue to hear and listen to public comments at its meeting as required by law. Tonight, we will follow the Nelson County policy and hear 30 minutes of public comments in order to work through the remaining business of our agenda in an efficient and productive manner.
And I just want to say that I do not approve of that at all. If we're going to listen to our community, we're going to listen to the entire community. This policy was never put in place until now. And I appreciate that it's a policy, but maybe it's one that needs to be revisited.
Well, it's the policy for right now. So we're going to go with the policy that has been written previously months ago. So
months ago?
Yes, it wasn't written just today.
No, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So it's been a policy for years?
Yeah, I don't know for years. All I'm saying, it's been a policy before now. This is not something that just occurred within this last week or this last month. That if not, then you can go to the board and look up the policy, because that is what is written.
Yeah.
So for tonight, I'm going to thank you for attending our Nelson County School Board meeting. Any person wishing to address the board may do so by following these rules. Individuals representing themselves are limited to 3 minutes. Individuals representing a group are limited to 5 minutes. Please step forward, state your name and address, and if you represent a group, state the name of the group you are representing. First on the list is Diane Breeding, Bardstown, representing herself.
Actually, no, I'm representing a group, Save Our Students.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Is no. Thank you.
So I'm Diane Breeding, and I'm out of Cox's Creek, and I'm representing Save Our Students. So our group is in favor of the community campus model and feel that this is the best and most efficient way to successfully educate all of our students to prepare them for college or a career. Why? Because a community campus model will provide equity and access to all students, providing them with educational opportunities and programs they otherwise would not be able to receive. So tonight I wanted to share that a member of our, what I call Team Save Our Students, through an open records request, requested all of Diane Berry's emails received, sent, deleted between January 2023, February 21st, 2023, and in one request. And then there were emails from a different time period following that, unsure of the date span. There were over 900 pages of emails that myself and others in our group went through. And the one thing that we were looking for was how many people emailed Diane either in favor of or against the community campus model. So Diane, on February 4th, you wrote a reply email to Christy Gilliland, and in that email you had assured her that you only had 4 emails from individuals who were in favor of the community campus model. Well, I can assure you that our findings showed 110 unique emails from individuals saying that they wanted the community campus. 27 that were against it, and 12 out of that 110 were from your district. I can provide you with that data and specific emails, so if you wanted to follow up with Ms. Christie and let her know this information, you will have the facts to do so. With this knowledge, it is clear to me and apparent that you are not open to what the community is expressing, and that doesn't make for a very good board member, does it? One other email that I found very alarming through another open records request, and that email was dated April 30th, 2021, where you forwarded the attachment report of West Bradley misconduct to Jeannie Underwood. And you forwarded the same attachment to your personal email. The email originated from an employee of the district filing a formal complaint and was sent to the Board of Education and Kim Hogan. You all have that right in front of you. I was on the board at the time, and I know exactly what was in that attachment. It was sent to you as a member of the Board of Education. Being a board member, this clearly violates the Code of Ethics policy, which is right with you too. Policy number 8, specifically disclosing or using confidential information acquired in the course of official duties for personal gain. I don't ever remember Jeannie Underwood being in charge of human resources or someone who would be responsible for that type of information. I don't think Jeannie Underwood was a member of the Nelson County Board of Education at the time or a need-to-know person. Jeannie Underwood wasn't even in the person's school. It is clear that you are unable to separate personal vendettas from board business. So the final record I have was through an open records request where I asked for your personnel record. I'm sure most records aren't kept that long, but they did send me your termination letter. And it just said, your employment as secretary at Nelson County High School will be terminated on June 24th, 1994. It doesn't say whether it's voluntary or involuntary or the reason why, but in my HR world, if termination was voluntary, generally I wouldn't be writing a term letter. I don't know, people can draw their own conclusions there. So I just thought I'd share. In closing, I'm asking you, Diane Berry, to resign as member of the Board of Education because it is clear you are unable to perform the duties and responsibilities of your position. Do yourself and the community a favor and step down.
Next on the list is Jessica Hogue.
Jessica Hogue, Cox's Creek. I'm going to follow up with Diane. So on Sunday, January 22nd, 2023, a person on the active lawsuit against the Nelson County Board of Education, in which Diane Berry is listed as a defendant, emailed Ms. Berry about the January 17th board meeting. Here's a snippet of that email. I can only speculate that you made the 180 to make sure that New Haven got their updated school. Just like the
Wait until you get a mic. No.
Just gonna have to speak louder, I guess.
All right, as chair, you could correct this if not. Also, I don't like the seating arrangement. Damon Jackie's going to continue to try to manipulate you if he is seated next to you. Numerical order by district would be a more appropriate arrangement. Give me a call if you want to chat. I'm available pretty much anytime. Take care. Why did somebody on the lawsuit feel that they could suggest a change in seating? Also, why is a plaintiff on a lawsuit constantly contacting a defendant on the same lawsuit? I believe Gen Z would call that sus. Why did in further review, she also forwarded multiple emails to other people on that same lawsuit. What I found most concerning is what Ms. Breeding's already touched on. Per the school board member code of ethical conduct, keep confidential any information that is privileged under Kentucky law or board policy. In any other corporation, a person who did this would be terminated immediately due to leaking a confidential document. This is not okay, and we should not allow our elected representatives to get by with it. If anyone wants copies of all of these emails, we have plenty. We also have electronic versions that we'd be happy to share. Clearly, our board chair is limiting guest comments and will continue to do so. I know plenty, so if you're not able to speak tonight, I know plenty of media people that would love to hear your comments. To end, I want to address one more thing, because I've got time. Before anyone comes up here and throws the term bullying around, let me make one thing clear. Opposition and holding our elected officials to moral and ethical standards is not bullying.
Thank you. Our next speaker would be Bree Bell. It says Bree Bell is speaking for herself.
She's not. We switched. Didn't say it in the policy. She's forfeiting her spot in line because I'm 7 and I sent it in multiple days ago. We've never followed this policy before, so we have multiple families here for this purpose. And actually, I'm gonna let me know when you're ready.
Okay, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay.
We stand before you today as a group of mothers from the New Haven community. Among us are mothers of children ranging from 2 years to 25 years old, mothers of children with trauma, mothers of children taking advanced courses, mothers of children with learning disabilities, emotional and behavior disabilities, mothers of children in academic and athletic clubs, women raising children as mothers when their own mothers are not able. Our voices deserve to be heard. Our children deserve to feel as though they belong. They deserve the same opportunities that other children throughout their community receive. They deserve access to quality educators that feel supported and have access to professional learning opportunities built into their day with peers around the same content. A few short months ago, we were excited to hear the decisions that our board was moving forward. Our children were finally gaining access to opportunities we've been demanding for years, only to be ripped away, and from what we can tell is because of an ego, half-truths, and hidden agendas. Members of the Board of Education took it upon themselves to take away opportunities from our children. They do not deserve to do so without communicating with these parents and community stakeholders around the county. Now, here we are today with no plan moving forward, or simply hearsay with absolutely no input from our educational leaders and no consideration for our students' well-being. What we have heard is people criticizing our teachers, our families, and our students, most of which have never stepped foot in our buildings. We watch as other parts of the community take demands and provide financial support to people within our own community for the good of somewhere else. We refuse to continue to be treated as citizens and allow our board to make excuses as to why our students aren't enough. We are a small community that unites together for the greater good of our students. We support each other when we aren't able to do so alone. We rally together to care for each other and our school. But most importantly, we're enraged that a group of people can be so inconsiderate to us. We expect data to be thrown at us later, as if we aren't aware of our academic standing, when in reality, we have been below the state average for years and no one seemed to bat an eye. To be frank, we could share our own experiences with you and that of others that would give you a sense of our school community's reality. But no one has ever asked us. But instead, you assume and criticize. We now have an opportunity to provide our students with more and demand you to reconsider the detrimental decisions you have recently made. Our children deserve it. The New Haven community deserves it. The statements being made by people outside of the New Haven community and some of our board members speak volumes in regards to your goals. And equity is very far from it. We believe the last 3 years has brought light to the true inequities that exist within the New Haven community, and we have finally been allowed to unite around a vision for our children that truly changes their trajectory. We now call on you, our board, to take action. We want you to look at us and tell us, and I'm going to stop because I want you to line up and I want you guys to face them, not me. We want you to look at us and tell us this is about money and being financial stewards, because our kids aren't enough to make better decisions in the decision-making process. That you can't remember or don't know what your community wants because you do not want to face the fact that promises were made without taking into consideration what our children need. That one high school is best for all students because in a large school, the top 10 to 20% of students who academically excel actually see positive impacts and are giving advanced opportunities. Instead, we will just rip away the culture that we have built as though our children are disposable. That you care about the Nelson County community and its academic standing when you were part of a nonprofit organization prior to an assessment result ever being performed. That you love this community and want to see it thrive, but you can't be part of any event such as the Pride Games, the Bunny Bash, or any other community discussion.
Thank you very much.
We stand before you today.
Okay. The next speaker is
We stand before you today as a group of mothers from the New Haven community. We stand united. Our voices to be heard. Our children deserve to learn and grow.
As I said, the next speaker is Brian Hurst from Bardstown Group representing Southwest Nelson Football.
Good evening, board members. My name is Brian Hurst. I live in New Haven. I'm not used to talking to the microphone. I just talk loud. Okay. I'm speaking to you today in regards to requesting some financial assistance to be thought about for a new rebranding and expanding of the Southwest Nelson Middle School football program. Currently, Southwest Nelson football is based in New Haven and Boston. We feed the Thomas Nelson High School football program with a very limited amount of the county population. This restructured program that we're proposing, just like the baseball, softball, and soccer programs here at Thomas Nelson, will help to establish a true feeder system that will allow students district for Thomas Nelson High School to begin playing with their future teammates immediately. This model has been successful with other sports here around Thomas Nelson and also with the North Nelson Spartans Middle School football programs as well. This program will provide opportunities and access to resources for those that will attend Thomas Nelson High School. Opportunities for more kids to take the field and do so on grade level as they should. That being said, right now, some realities that face Southwest Nelson football. And no one knows this more than me, and it hurts me to sit here and tell you this. Last year, we were unable to field a 3rd and 4th grade team because of participation was down. It's hit us hard, COVID, and we haven't recovered. That likely means we won't be able to field a 5th and 6th grade team this year. That means in 2 years from now, if it stays the way it is, we wouldn't be able to field a middle school team. We have an issue with supporting students not feeding into the Nelson County system. We have a large group from Boston, for instance, who goes to the LJ, and they play some football down there. Current middle school team that we do now is made up of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders playing in what is primarily a 7th and 8th grade league. If we were to expand and rebrand this Southwest Nelson Middle School program, we would have it as one culture, a true feeder system that would benefit the kids. It would allow access for almost 400 male students, whereas now Southwest Nelson has access to about 160. Each year, Thomas Nelson High School football loses players to Nelson County High School due to the lack of exposure within the current system. We've had that success when you look at the soccer programs that are starting now, the baseball and softball in a similar situation. We have activity buses we can now leverage to get those students here to provide those opportunities. This provides students access to the high school facilities and staff, and it allows us to pool the resources to have a better impact and more opportunities for student athletes. That being said, and I don't know if this is the way to do it, but I'm asking you to help us out. Just like you did when North Nelson combined the Bloomfield team and the Old Kentucky home team. There will be a cost to this. Nothing's free, and football's gone way up. We would need to purchase 30 helmets at a proposed cost of $9,000. 20 helmets to be reconditioned at $100 a piece, that's another $2,000. Uniforms for the players, costing of about $100 per player. We would expect we need about 50 uniforms to cover it. New shoulder pads, equipment, knee pads, mouth guards, first aid, all the other stuff that we need. The total that we would look at is an estimate of about $21,000. All we're asking is to provide our kids with an opportunity to join a true feeder system and for some support from the board at some point in time to do that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Holly Smith.
It's very unusual for me to get up and have something in front of me to speak on. But when you have quotes directly from emails, you want to make sure you don't mess those words up. Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak to the entire board on behalf of some of the Thomas Nelson staff and the Thomas Nelson students, specifically to you, Ms. Berry. In light of recent emails obtained through open records requests, it's clear, as most of us have already known, that you hold a lot of resentment towards Wes, you hold a lot of resentment towards Thomas Nelson and our community. Before I begin with the disgusting emails and the proof of dislike for Thomas Nelson, let me tell you why we love our school. We love our school because we believe in our students. We believe in our traditions. We believe in our coworkers, our coaches, our cafeteria staff, our janitors, all the above, our admin. But mainly, we believe in our community. We're no different than any other school in our district. We're just like our coworkers around the district. We work very hard. Some days we work longer than 7 to 5, as suggested in other comments at board meetings. And we do this to create opportunities and experiences that these students would never get elsewhere. We do things here, we do things at Nelson County, we do things in our district
that are unmeasurable. We hold no ill will whatsoever to Nelson County or any other school in our district. So why do you hate us so much? On January the 23rd, you wrote to a plaintiff on a lawsuit against the district with the terrible display of disdain that Thomas Nelson students have for Nelson County. It's obvious that Thomas Nelson students want nothing to do with Nelson County students. I never thought I would hear such hateful comments coming out of those students' mouths. End quote. This comment is disgusting. This comment's disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself, Miss Berry. You're better than that. Our students spoke about laying their bricks. Our students spoke about Care and Connect experiences. Our students spoke about rituals and traditions that they are very passionate about. You may want to reread your code of ethical conduct, which was stated earlier. Accord other members, parents, and the community with respect. Talking like this doesn't sound like respect. In the same emails to the plaintiff on the lawsuit against the district, you stated, and I quote, "Like I told Susan, Wes helped that attitude along since the day he became the principal at Thomas Nelson," end quote. Are you actively speaking to people in a lawsuit against the district, against our students, against our schools, against our superintendent? Wes Bradley did not create Thomas Nelson. He was just simply hired as a principal here. What attitude are you referring to? Is the attitude that we like to think outside the box? Like we call it being a purple cow? Is it because we encourage our students to be unique? Is it because we're a team and we care for one another and we do things in a tight-knit group? Then there's an email on February 8th where you stated, quote, "I have not turned a blind eye. The issue to me is to make Thomas Nelson a more desirable school to attend. This has been my thought since the development of the school. I can only tell you, confidential between you and I, change will come," end quote. Can you elaborate on that, please? Is it to bleed Thomas Nelson and Thomas Nelson students so that we can get one high school? Is it to get rid of Wes Bradley and all the chaos that's going on in the district? With all that being said, I think we ask kindly that you resign from your position.
Thank you. Next person is Corey. Next speaker is Corey, P-O-L-H. Okay. How do you pronounce that, please, sir?
Corey Palhamus from Cox's.
Okay. And you're speaking for
Hello?
yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking for myself. So I have an anecdote to tell. I found some parallels.
We can't hear you.
Is it working? Yeah, I don't know that it's working. Hello? Can
There
hear?
you go.
So I have an anecdote to tell. I found the parallels interesting. My mom had graduated in 1968 from a city school in Lower Michigan that was located between two small villages. Her education started in a single-room schoolhouse, and she was transferred to the city school in 8th grade, part of a plan to close all the single-room schoolhouses in the area. The idea was to allow for more equity in class offerings, and it was stated by the school district to save money in operations. During the time prior to the merger, parents of the kids attending the schoolhouses, the single-room schoolhouses, were concerned and scared. They were concerned about accommodations to transport kids. Many could no longer walk or ride their horses to school. I understand the horses were not actually allowed at the schools. Some thought, how could we continue without the single-room schoolhouses? We need to save our schools at all costs to the kids. Although all cost to the kids was unlikely actually stated, however, they did not understand the actual cost the kids were paying while the single-room schoolhouses were still in use in rural Michigan in 1963. The kids eventually went to the city school, and my mom's experience was she discovered how far behind she was. She had to put in much more effort to keep up in comparison to the kids that had started in that school. My mom's experience was firsthand the effects of teachers that were divided between grade levels. It wasn't the fault of the individual school. The school did their best with what they were given to work with. They even utilized 5th graders to teach 1st graders in an attempt to alleviate faults with a divided teacher structure. And for Nelson County, we pushed the investment down the road. Really, I think what I want to save my time for was with the New Haven. On the way here, I talked to one of the directors as I walked out of work. He asked me why I was bothering to do this. He said, I shouldn't be in public schools. I said, well, that's a good question. All the teachers and the school officials I've worked with at the schools themselves are very smart, very talented. I didn't see a reason to be anywhere else. He just said, I don't get it. Why would you do this? None of us are in public schools. On the way here, I realized the reason is needless redlining and discrimination. The voter manipulation seems to be easy to accomplish, and I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to just leave. It's easy enough for me to do. I've never had issues with money, but I think the other people here have, and not everyone gets that option. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alice Welch.
It's just me, Miss Berry. Hello? Okay, so hi. My name is Alice Welch. I'm a physical therapist of 26 years. I am also an assistant scoutmaster to my Boy Scout troop of 6 years. I have been a parent volunteer in the Nelson County school system for 14 years. The first 10 years of that, I actually stayed at Cox's Creek School every Tuesday and Thursday for 10 years, right beside my teachers. I'm here today because I want to tell you all, I want to address the board really, so I apologize to the audience here. Every time that I have a question,
I'm just asking you to stay.
Go back here?
Thanks. Yep.
Every time that I have a question or a concern, I call up Thomas Nelson. I get a phone call, I get an email immediately. They even offer to meet with me if I want to for any concerns that I've had over my 3 children. Ever. They know who Alice Welch is. They know who I am. And I know who they are. I know Miss Robertson, I know Merrifield, I know Smith. I know Mr. Fletcher and Mr. Hoyes. I know these teachers, they know me, and that is so vital, the connection, the relationship that I as a parent have with my teachers. But you know what's more important than that? Is the relationship that these teachers have with my 3 children. They know that my children are named Rebecca Welch, Juliet Welch, Alex Welch, and these people know what my children's strengths are. They know what their weaknesses are. That relationship that I have, that my children have with Thomas Nelson High School's faculty, have helped them to become an independent, successful community member at this point. My Juliet is a graduate of last year of the University of Kentucky. She's a teacher in Fayette County now, partly due to Mr. Bradley and all of these other Thomas Nelson teachers that helped me. My middle daughter, Rebecca, is in her 3rd year at University of Kentucky in speech therapy school. And my Alex, who's a junior here at Thomas Nelson, is in electrical and engineering collab last year. He just got OSHA certified this week through Thomas Nelson High School and the ATC. He just told me today on the way home that he's going to go and try to sit this summer for the OSHA 30. I don't know what that is, but that's great. Okay? So my point is that these relationships are so important because, Miss Berry, one day I'm going to be dead. And that's the fact. And they need to be independent community members. and they need this middle school here so they can get a relationship started earlier than what they do.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker is Mandy, P-A-Y-E-A-R. Pierre. I'm sorry.
Prayer.
Building a culture of care. I begin with my end in mind of building a culture of care. This is one of our goals at OKH. I'm the principal of OKH. I didn't state that. But if anything's a goal, we have to build a plan to work together towards it. So teachers and students come together to create meaningful experiences that will help us reach our goal. We work together to reach a goal. Perhaps as board members, you can think of a time when you have been a part of something similar. I can think back to last month when all principals, along with numerous leaders across our community, stood together begging for unity, conversation, and collaboration, although our plea fell on deaf ears. I continue to be ignored as a leader at OKH by Amanda, David, and Diane. To contrast, the school I lead seems to be something that the three of you want to talk a lot about. Not only am I excluded, disregarded, and ignored, but so are the amazing teachers and students at OKH. Apparently, a piece of paper can tell you everything you need to know about OKH. I'm here to tell you that it's not. A piece of paper does not define who we are or the work that we do. Let me shed light on some of the things that a piece of paper won't tell you. Test scores. We know, you're going to hear about them. We know our test scores are not where we want them to be. However, if you only look at a piece of paper, you would be missing out tremendously. Our students are learning, our students are smart, our students take care of one another, our students are leaders. Just last week, our 8th grade students were awarded 19 out of the top 20 winners in an essay contest sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. For context, 9 different counties participated in this opportunity, and our Wildcats took home the top 19 out of 20 possible winners. You guys are taking my time. The Chamber and I are not the only ones that know how smart our students are. Over the course of this year, our wonderful teachers have invited community members into our building to interview our students about the texts they're reading, the resumes they're writing, and the skills they are learning. The feedback from these leaders has been tremendously, overwhelmingly positive. They celebrate the work of our students and our teachers. Can you find that on a piece of paper? Perhaps, but you'd have to be looking for the positive first, and then you would miss the impact skill. There's power in conversation. There's power in collaboration. It demonstrates care. It validates the people and their efforts, which is exactly the opposite of what's happening right now. Our students and teachers are being attacked and shamed for scores on a standardized assessment that is taken once a year. There are zero efforts to involve anyone else in those conversations or celebrate that work. If you want to build a culture of care, start with including us.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Kayla Linton.
They may not have heard.
Ms. Linton. What? I'm going right down the list.
Well, they flipped because they thought it was 30 minutes. That's what you said.
Okay, you want to go after her? 30 minutes.
It's past 30 minutes.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Kayla Linton. I have a student that goes to Thomas Nelson. I'm not really here
to discuss a lot about my opinion about anything. I came really to address emails that was sent by Diane Berry about my student who spoke at one of the board meetings. She spoke all positive things. There was nothing negative that she said about anyone or anything besides stating her opinion and her beliefs, her feelings. I'm a single mom of children who, like was discussed from others, have a lot of trauma and a lot of maybe trust issues, a lot of social anxiety, and I'm just speaking on my child, of course. But I do know that you're set in front of me right now in the middle of the table, and you want my child, or children, or other people's children to, hear y'all, and it's kind of hard because a lot of people, jump around like real. Like the lady next to you asked you, why are we stopping at 30 minutes? You didn't have an answer. She asked you, how long is this policy? You don't have an answer. So I think that's a lot of an issue with me on what am I asking my daughter to, you're setting a horrible example. You wrote an email, very unprofessional, and I like staying in front of you because, I don't know a lot. I'm not a good talker. I'm not a good writer, but I do know that my daughter has more friends. She made into the Governor Scholar Program this year by help of all of her teachers, her other students. She is AB Honor Roll, cares about it, gets up for school happy every morning, deals with a lot, and I tell my daughter to trust in her board, trust in her leaders, trust in her things, and then I see these ugly emails that you wrote, and I am really like beside myself of who am I telling her to look at or look up to, because I honestly would like to have a discussion with you after the meeting on why you would write emails, and then you want people to trust you. You write about the things these students said, but I don't know if you know the definition or what this is, but for someone that's not worthy of respect or consideration, that's the definition of one of the words you use, so I'm sure you know which one that is. What consideration or respect for my daughter or any of the other students do you have when you have awful reasoning, awful things, but besides that, I can't figure out who would be on a board of students and talks about students. I don't really understand, the reasoning behind that. So if you make that so, I don't understand even why you have the job you have if you want to talk about students negatively.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Sue Osborne. I guess I'm confused.
They thought it was only going to be 30 minutes worth of time.
It's 30 minutes, Tiffany, from where you talk, not in between, okay? We added up who was on the list at the end of 30 minutes, 5 minutes on two, 3 minutes on the other. That's equal less than 30 minutes.
I guess the question is, who's speaking and how much time do we have? I guess those are good questions.
And your name, please?
Looks like we've got some new speakers.
Okay. After she gets finished, you can speak. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I shouldn't have to explain 30 minutes. This is the list. This is the list. These are 5 minutes and 5 minutes. Then you add 3 minutes down through here, Ms. Clark.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Ms. Osborne, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and good evening. Thanks. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as I can. Let me first say that, My name is Sue Osborne. I am a graduate of Nelson County High School, and my daughters both graduated from Nelson County High School. I am a retired school administrator. I was principal of an elementary school, well, 2 different elementary schools, and for 12 years, I guess. And I did some time at central office and realized it was really not where I could make the impact, so I went back to a principal job. I just want to make it clear here that I am not here to criticize anybody. I know how hard teachers work. That's not criticism, that's data. That is state assessment data. Yes, they are.
Please give her
Yes, they
some
are.
respect, please.
Yeah, I didn't scream out at you all when you were talking, so. I'm not blaming teachers. Please, I'm not blaming teachers for any of this. This is a district issue, and what I want to do is beg the board and the superintendent to stop ignoring this. And one of the reasons I have a stake in this is about 3 years ago, I had to tutor my nephew, my great nephew, who was in 3rd grade and was barely reading on a 1st grade level. And he was so beaten down that it broke my heart. And I want you to know, they wanted to test him, but I knew there was nothing wrong with him. I know when a child is going to need extra support from a special education program. When I started working with him, he learned so fast that I had him reading at grade level in less than 6 months. And that's because he was getting instruction from, and it was one-on-one, but still, he learned that he realized I can learn. I can learn. So, between that and then I saw the data because I'm a data person, and it can't be ignored anymore. It just cannot be ignored anymore. When you look at this, and this is, it's not COVID because this is not just this 2021, 2022. This has been going on. I realize that. And I am here to say, please stop ignoring the fact that we have kids that can't read and write and do math. I understand the importance of, especially at the high school level, your co-ops and the trade school and all that. I understand that. But this cannot be ignored. And this data is important. It is important to the state.
Oh, did it go off? Okay, thank you very much.
These are our kids.
Thank you,
These
Ms.
are our
Osborne.
kids.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
52%
Okay,
can't read.
The next speaker is...
I'm not blaming teachers.
And
I'm
our
not
last-
blaming parents.
Our last speaker is Bree Bell, please.
I'm blaming the district. The district needs to address this.
Thank you.
I'm 65.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. Thank you.
Can I just say this?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Bell?
I've never been to a board meeting like this.
Thank you. Okay, one moment. And this is individual, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Brianne Bell. I am the English Language Arts teacher at the New Haven School here in Nelson County. I've been a middle school teacher for 2 years, both of those being at New Haven. I've been guided by the best leadership that anyone could ask for. Our leaders have been met with arduous challenges, but have overcome them each and every time. Last month, the community campus model was effectively killed, leaving us as well as Boston in limbo. We have been trying to put together the pieces of what could have been for our students. trying to find ways to give them opportunities that others in this county have. My students at New Haven have big and wonderful dreams, and I'd like to share a few with you at this point. One of my 7th grade students would like to be a pilot when she gets out of high school. An 8th grader wants to start his own construction business and lawn care company. Another 7th grader expressed that she would like to go to the police academy. A 6th grader has dreams of becoming a nurse. And finally, an 8th grade student so desperately wants to pursue his dream of becoming an actor in musical theater, but will settle to become a doctor because he wants to take care of his mom and dad. How are we, as a district, going to pull together for these students so that they're able to accomplish these dreams? How are you going to work with us, the teachers and administrators of the schools that you put on the back burner, to make sure these students have equal opportunities to their peers in this county? We have fought tirelessly for our students and will continue to do so, even when it's overlooked by those who we put our trust in. Those who are supposed to be cheering us on and leading us to victory. We at New Haven have been accused of being loud when we don't get our way. If being loud gets our students opportunities they so rightfully deserve, then so be it. But what now? How do we continue on knowing that our students are being left behind once again? How do we give them the tools to thrive in the world that they're going to enter in less than 10 years? Need I remind you that these students are the future doctors, teachers, lawyers, welders, farmers, and so on and so forth in this county. I haven't come up here to harp at you all, but we need to know what's next for our schools and for our students to ensure that they're thriving and being successful. We need you all to stop turning a blind eye towards New Haven and Boston. We need something because as it stands right now, they're being left behind and held back, and they see it too. They see the leaders of this school board ignoring their pleas for opportunities. We, as classroom leaders, are trying our hardest to provide equal and best practices for our students, but how can we do that when our board is turning their backs on us when we need them the most? Some people's quick solutions are to quit and go elsewhere, but what will our students make of that? They will see yet another person who has given up on them and shown them that they're not worth it. Newsflash, our kids are so worth it, so worth all of the stress and whatever else that is handed to us. We're here to fight for what's right. I will be loud, and my students will know that Miss Bell will always stand up for them, even when no one else will.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is our monthly consent agenda. That includes our monthly finance report, leaves of absence, minutes from previous meetings, a fundraiser request, overnight out-of-state field trip request, which included Boston 4th grade, NCHS FFA, NCHS FBLA, and furniture surplus. I need a motion, please, to accept our consent agenda, please.
Motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I'll
Jack.
second.
Who?
Me.
Okay, Ms. Bowling, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Okay, thank you. Our next is a personnel notification, which the board just acknowledges the receipt of a personal notification. There is no action required. Our next item is we need to set a graduation date and time. Superintendent Bradley.
As always, one of the biggest nights of the school year is the last one. Graduation traditionally occurs on the last Friday evening of the school year. Each year we rotate start times from graduation between the two high schools. Ceremonies are typically around 1 hour. I share all that because the start times do play into that. This year, that would mean that if we continue in that current tradition, that the recommendation would be that Thomas Nelson High School students would begin graduation Friday, May 26th at 5:30 p.m., and Nelson County High School students would begin graduation at 7:30 p.m. This, moving forward on this agenda item, allows for the schools and families to send out notification and to begin to prepare.
What currently is the last day of school for students? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's a Thursday, the 25th.
Okay.
Alex, correct me if I'm wrong there.
25th.
Yeah. It's the day before.
Okay. So, I mean, you know, one thing that we always try and do, like you said, is make sure it's on a Friday. Mainly that tradition started for all of us old folks that would help with project graduation to make sure we could recover on Saturdays. I would assume, I mean, we never can tell about spring weather in Kentucky, but we would be conscious of making sure we would use NTI days, or at the worst, we would have one extra day we could add of instruction for Friday the 26th if we needed to.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, with that being said, I need a motion for the recommendation that set graduation ceremony Friday the 26th at Thomas Nelson to graduate at 5:30 and Nelson County to graduate at 7:30 p.m.
Motion.
Okay, Mr. Jackie, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Deaton, thank you. It's been seconded by Ms. Deaton. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next we have a mental health grant, and that would be Madeline Tucker.
Good evening. So tonight I'm here to present a mental health contract with the University of Kentucky Trauma for Children Center. This allows us to have an annual contract with the University of Kentucky. As you all recall, we received a school-based mental health grant. This is one of the stipulations that we have to have in order to have been eligible and to have accepted that grant. So the University of Kentucky is going to work with our educators to train them on trauma-informed care. We will also have training to train the trainers, so that we're going to have trauma-informed care practices in our schools delivered from educators and our mental health providers. So tonight, I'm just asking for your acceptance of the contract with the University of Kentucky.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, I need a motion to approve the MOA with the University of Kentucky Center for Trauma and Children to provide grant-required mental health training services in an amount not to exceed $28,749. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jackie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Real quick before you go, Ms. Tucker, thank you for all of your hard work and the others that helped with, it was the official name Bunny Bash?
The Bunny Bash.
On Saturday, you could not stir 'em with a stick, I think is the phrase, at Old Kentucky Home Middle School. And was it approximately $3,500? $3,500?
Yes, thank you for coming and being a part of that. Yes, when we think about annual contribution to the crusade, in about an hour and 45 minutes, Nelson County community raised $3,500 for the WHAS Crusade for Children. So.
I was going to get in line for the photo with the Easter Bunny, but then I saw the superintendent was in charge of that, and I thought, no, I did not want any evidence. So.
Yes, so we look forward to that now being our annual event for diverse learning to contribute back to a great provider for us. So thank you.
Well, and what was it? Don Franklin himself it was his helicopter that was used to drop the eggs. So the relationship with Don Franklin Chevrolet here in town also came in handy on that.
They were able to arrange that. Yes, we're very grateful for.
Appreciate all your hard work and those others.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is farmland lease renewal, and that would be Jessica Rogers.
I'm here tonight to just ask you to renew the farmland lease with Peggy O'Daniel. Nothing has changed in the lease, except for we did ask for proof of insurance, and they did provide that, and it's for the 2023 planting season.
Oh, okay, with that being said, I need a motion to approve the lease with Peggy O'Daniel for use of farmland for the 2023 planting season. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Bowling, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Norman, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is bus maintenance design and timeline. That would be Stephen Ward of Studio Kramer.
Before you get started, Stephen, I think it's, again, I feel like I'm sort of interrupting you every time you come to the podium these days. I appreciate your patience with our district, by the way, and all the help and guidance that you've given us. But I feel like we're sitting here not really knowing. I mean, we're hearing from our community that we still don't know where we are. And the interesting part about that is, you know, I know backroom conversations have happened, individual conversations have happened with ideas of who's doing what and who's going where. But I feel like the primary stakeholders, the people that were here, that have been here the last few meetings, speaking on behalf of students, haven't been part of those conversations. I find it difficult that we can begin talking, and while it's appropriate according to the timeline to the DFP that was approved in December of 21, we should be talking about bus maintenance design and the garage, and we should be having those other conversations. Yet here we are with the primary piece of that puzzle now missing. I'm not sure if everyone is aware that every part of that DFP, short of Cox's Creek, played an integral part to the next project, whether it was students being transferred in or transferred out, or that building was going to become part of the Up Center. Every piece of that DFP, again, short of the Cox's Creek project, played a role in that. So I'm really struggling with why are we here if we haven't decided or even started a conversation, which I am more than willing to do. If we haven't done that yet, why are we here? When are we going to really have the conversation about the students of Nelson County? When are we going to have that conversation? Because to be honest, right now, everything that we have, everything that I know that I'm coming up with in my head is speculation about what Mr. Norman, Ms. Deaton, and Ms. Berry want. Because you guys have had conversations behind the scenes, all I can do is speculate. The stories that are going on in our community are speculation. So until you guys are ready to really lay the truth on the table to what is really a compromise, then we can't move forward. Like, I don't want to have everybody come to the table and us have another 20 months of discussion and us be right here again. So when you guys are ready to lay truth here in front of everyone about really what you want and what you see for your community, then we can't go forward. Because if we're going to talk about compromise, we have to know that. Because like I said, I can sit here all day and talk about student success and what that looks like with our primary stakeholders, the teachers, the administrators, the principals of our buildings, because they're the ones that can also give me guidance. But they don't want to waste their time for 20 months and then come here to the table and everybody go, yeah, that's not going to work for me. I don't want to assume there's hidden agendas. I don't want to assume your story. But that's what you guys are leaving us with. That's what you're leaving our community with. So where do we stand? And again, I'm really asking.
Well, I mean, I would absolutely welcome the opportunity to talk about compromise. I mean, absolutely, that's where we are. We need to be able to come together and talk about a compromise that everybody can live with. And it may not make everyone happy, including me or David or, I mean, all of us. It may not, but that would probably be a good compromise, one where everybody gets some of what they want. Now, I will say this, the bus maintenance allows the Up Center to move forward, which really is, I mean, it really isn't part of the community campus. It really is a separate thing. And even if the community campus had gone through, we still would have been at the same situation with the Up Center because the academy would temporarily have to move to the basement of central office. That was going to have to happen anyway. And that's what's going to happen if we move forward with this right away. So I don't see this issue as being in flux. I mean, I believe we can move forward on the maintenance and the Up Center and get some forward movement. I mean, we
so the plan is to move the academy into the base of central office?
I think that was always the plan.
No,
that would be a question for Wes.
The plan was for it to be, well, the plan for was the academy to be at Okontee Middle School building, and the Up Center would also expand into part of OKA.
Well, ultimately, but with the in terms of the order of operations, I mean, that wasn't going to happen right away, because if everything had gone through per the plan, we would have started at Thomas Nelson. So does that make sense? OKH would have still been OKH. So I don't see an issue moving forward with this, but absolutely, I would love to get together a group of people who are willing to talk about
educators
all
have to be at the
stakeholders.
table.
It would need to be all stakeholders, I believe.
Well,
Talk about a
and
compromise.
it also has to be the local planning committee, because that local
When we're talking
planning
about
committee.
facilities, yes, absolutely.
It is required that the local planning committee present what the district facility plan will be.
So,
Okay, I agree with Ms. Deaton about the ATC though, because if we're gonna have to move some stuff to make that, to make it the Up Center.
But
I mean,
that's what OKH was originally going to do. It was going to allow space for those classes. Like the health club, I know, was not even really considered as part of the Up Center. It was going to be part of OKH. Same thing with the academy. Those, I know it sounds like, oh, well, this can just keep moving forward. Yeah, the bus garage can, but there are kids that are going to be displaced, and those kids are going to be displaced for God knows how long. Like, really, how long?
I don't have an answer to that, but Tracy, that was going to happen anyway, because we weren't going to have the Nelson County Community Campus until the Thomas Nelson was completed. So there was always going to have to be a temporary move into the basement, and that's not ideal long term, absolutely. But in talking to Kenny Fugahara, I met with him this week, and there is space there. I mean, they like the space they're in, but they can make it work. And I mean, they've indicated that they could. So,
But if one of the compromises is to utilize OKH's building for a middle school, which again, I'm just hearing speculation because that's what people are rumoring, then that space wouldn't be temporary.
Wes, can I ask a question of Wes? What was your plan in terms of if the community campus had gone forward at Thomas Nelson? What was your plan for the academy temporarily?
The assumption was we were going to evaluate that timeline and make decisions as needed. In this particular case, we would have moved students into the basement of the central office if necessary, because we already have the academy partly there. At the same time, as we looked long term, originally at the community campus model, we had multiple options for thinking about the future of alternative schools on each campus. But in the short term, it is certainly possible to integrate the academy into the central office.
So what are we looking at as far as getting so does the LPC need to reconvene? Is this a stakeholder meeting? Where do we go from here so that we can have the meaningful discussion? Are you capable with your team? I know you're capable. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to say that. I know you're capable. Can your team start putting the options on the table of what we have? But I think I go back to the original question. If Mr. Norman isn't planning on moving kids out of New Haven, then that limits those options. If Ms. Deaton doesn't plan on closing Bloomfield, that limits the options. If Ms. Berry's one high school plan, that limits our options. You all have to decide what is not going to happen, what's off limits, and what can work. What are you all willing to come to the table with? Because once that happens, we can throw all kinds of compromise out there. But that truth telling has to happen.
Well, and I think I think we need to think about how to best frame that. I mean, I would welcome Wes's thoughts on how to put together some sort of committee or what the best way to meet that. I mean,
so I think one of the next.
That.
Thank you, guys. I think next step really is putting together a timeline that allows the board permission to have some of these conversations more formally and informally, as well as involving members of the district and schools to at least acknowledge possibilities, right? So we started with 4 options as a part of the DFP process. They were very broad options. It's certainly possible at this time that we could come back with more options, a number of different options that would look through the lens that the DFP traditionally looked through. And we can do that over the course of the next month and provide that to the board and team members for a discussion that allows you to determine really what the next steps could be. In terms of reconvening the LPC, that's certainly plausible. You can do that at any time, as well as you could, in theory, reseat the LPC. I think if the board were to reseat the LPC, it would have to have an intention to do so, a reason to do so, and be able to be public about that. The previous local planning committee was seated just I believe, 2 years ago.
Year and a half.
Yeah. So a year and a half ago. All those conversations, I think it sounds like by April, board meeting, we need to be able to have some timeline to formalize those conversations. And I think really the directive that you guys give in that timeline and process will be important to share at that time.
Well, you and I have talked about different plans. You and I have talked about another plan or two.
We've talked about lots of plans,
Well,
Diane.
I'm just saying that that's not the only plan. I mean, there should have been an alternative just in case. I mean, you don't come prepared to something with a 1 and that's it, with an A plan and that's it.
Well, the DFP, though, the purpose of the LPC that creates the DFP is to then present to a board, here are the facility needs in your district. If you want to use construction bond dollars, these are the items you can pick from. And of course, there's priority levels. There are some things that are lower priority, and I forget, Stephen, what the different levels are numbered as.
It's in different colors, yes.
Well, but that is what the DFP does. The DFP does not say, here's the local planning committee does not say, here is DFP, District Facility Plan 1, or here is District Facility Plan 2.
I know that.
There's never been a district that I know of that has said, here's 2 district facility plans, pick which one you want to do. It's, here's the district facility plan as a board. If you accept it, then these are the things that you focus on whenever you're dealing with construction bonds, which talking about construction bonds, I'd throw in and I'd add to Ms. Bowling. I mean, I think something else, because we've heard it several times, concerns over funding. We have yet to hear from the experts whenever it comes to financial funding for districts, which is the Ross Sinclair Associates folks. I forget the gentleman's name, but he was at our board meeting at Nelson County High School, and he politely stood there for probably 10 minutes, and then he was never heard from. 30 years worth of experience that they have there, which is much more than any of the 5, actually any of the 6 of us sitting up here have, whenever it comes to financial matters, whenever it comes to triple nickels or anything like that. So I think that also is part of the conversations. We've got to have those people here too.
Okay, the only thing I still say is that has nothing to do with the Up Center and moving the garage.
Actually, it does, because we're talking about the bus and maintenance garage here. That will be construction bond dollars, which means that has to be something that is on the district facility plan, which means that is something we need to have the RSA expert here to talk with us about.
But it still would have to be moved.
What would have to
The
be
bus
there's
maintenance
no
garage
there's
still
no
has to
question
be
about that.
moved. And the committee, I'm sorry, the company that does that, recommendations, is still up for what we need to talk about too, is the design and development through that company.
Well, I say we listen to Mr. Ward and see what he has to offer here.
So just some context, this is the second conversations Mr. Ward will be having with us around the bus garage facility. This is design and development, so this process has been going on for some time.
That poor Mike.
Are the batteries?
These green Amazon Basics batteries are not recommended, apparently.
They had
Make a note of that.
Would not recommend these.
Thank you. So you actually saw a version of this first in December, but it's been modified some since then. The overall plan that you had already approved schematic design for would use some of the space in the north end of the academy for offices and some parts storage, and then it would be connected by a walkway to a new structure just north of the academy, which is a 5-bay service structure with a variety of equipment, lifts. There's a bus wash off the end of the facility. And we've been working with Mr. Marchese over the past year or so to make sure that we've got all of the equipment as he would prefer for it to be set up. And we have now, at this point, design development is where we've engaged all of the engineers so we have an understanding of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing needs. We've coordinated with the equipment suppliers that would be interested in bidding the project so that we've got the equipment integrated in a way that, that we can then put the project out for bid once we finish construction documents. If you approve the design development documents this evening, that would then allow us to go forward with construction documents, which I anticipate would take about 2 months to complete, at which point we could put the project out for bid. The other documents you would approve tonight in addition to the design development documents are the BG2, BG3, and a revised BG1. The revised BG1 just makes the BG1 match the BG3.
So, Mr. Ward, looking at the BG set of documents, what I focused in on is it looks like the estimate, and again, we've had discussions in the past that the estimates that are used for this are a little bit archaic. It's what the state uses, though. It looks like the estimate is somewhere around 3.6, a little bit over $3.6 million.
2.8 for construction.
The construction estimate is 2.89, and then there are a variety of costs, some of those having to do with equipment, inspections, and the architect's engineer's fees, the construction manager's fees, so all of that is in there.
Which all that brings it up to that roughly 3.6, because I noticed, and why I'm asking this question is, and that's something I think very important for us as a board to recognize and follow through on, is the work, if we were to approve this work tonight, and I have no doubt that it's needed, having listened to Mr. Mattingly, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Marchese, who are the experts in the district. I know buses are yellow. I've ridden on them. You all know what needs to be in place for a bus maintenance and bus grounds facility. If we as a board then decide that we want to move forward with this, then we've got to go the full length of this project. Otherwise, we will be stuck like we are with last year's $1.5 million worth of expenses that will have to come out of general funds now. That 1.5 was going to be paid for out of construction bonds. So if we approve this tonight, we've got to go the full limit, and we've got to end up also issuing bonds whenever that day comes. That doesn't mean that this is the final design. I know Mr. Ward, Mr. Caudell, they've been very gracious with taking suggestions from us or from the people that are the experts on this, the ones I mentioned earlier. But again, we've got something that will require the issuance of bonds, and we've got to be ready to commit to that, or else we will then stick ourselves out of general fund with additional expenses that were not planned for.
So at this point, Stephen, this is 25% in. I believe the first part was 5. This is 20%, just in terms of the progress for the fees structure. I believe that's right. This is 20%, I know that, of the overall fee.
Design development is,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So we're this will be 25% of the way there. The next step, the construction documents, are the really the biggest piece of the process, and will be the
authorizing tonight is the next
pre-construction
40%.
biggest piece.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So then what you need is approval from us if we decide to move into that next phase, which is actual, use the correct phrase again for us.
Construction documents.
Which gets into details of steel, actual visual blueprint documents that show the building, correct?
Right, it gets us the full document set that we can put out for bidding, including all of the technical specifications, the book of all the material descriptions and things.
Is there harm in tabling this until we have a better understanding of where our board stands with the rest of actually with students, to be honest? I mean, I know this needs to happen because I know we need to move the bus garage so the ATC can continue to grow and expand. But again, my priority here is thinking about where we're going to put students in the next year. I
can answer that for Stephen, since we're his customer. I can kind of answer that a little easier, probably. In short, part of the process we go through is allowing the architect some financial security in moving the process. And while Studio Kramer has been a long partner with the schools, they also can't risk, they can't risk continued service on the project unless we pay them to move forward. This is a 20%, this is 20% as an example. I say that really as a way to say, if we want them to move forward on the project, we would want to approve this. If we don't want them to move forward, we would not approve it if we wanted them to stall it out. Otherwise, Stephen wouldn't be able to direct his team to continue the work because they wouldn't have financial security, just as a reference.
There's no reason for me to table it. I don't want to table it. I want to move forward with this, and we've got a plan. We've been talking about it.
We have a plan? Is that what you said?
I mean, we've been talking to Wes, and we understand it.
Wait a minute.
We want to move forward with it, and that's where I'm at. So
Okay, that's enough. Please.
Plan?
The only plan is to move forward with the bus maintenance design. That was the only thing we talked about, just like with everyone. Yeah.
Beyond the phases that we've described, if at any point the board wants the project to go pause, we can. There's no reason not to do that.
I know, again, this is ideal timeline for us to be having this conversation. If everything part of the DFP would have been moving along, are we going to find ourselves in the same situation in a couple months, getting ready to accept bids on this, and we're putting kids at OKH that aren't really supposed to be at OKH? I am worried about what conversations have happened behind closed doors. I'm not going to deny that. I'm worried because I don't feel like I've been part of those conversations. I don't even think that Boston itself is being part of these conversations. So I am worried about moving forward with any plan. But I'm not the majority here.
I make a motion to approve the bus maintenance design development document so that we can move forward with this and the renovations or the grant money at the UP Center. So I make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Deaton to approve our maintenance design development. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Norman, thank you. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it.
So I'll just ask then, as a board, we have got to be prepared then to issue bonds whenever that day comes.
Yes, sir.
Because we cannot be stuck again with funds coming out of general funds that were expected to come out of construction bond funds.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate all the work that you're doing on this. I really do. I know we need it.
Thank you.
So I'll give some context to the next item, Stephen, because there's been some confusion on the master plan proposal. In short, a master plan simply allows for a long-range view of how to use the entire property at Nelson County High School, Mile Kentucky Home Campus. This master planning process has been recommended by Studio Kramer since October. So we have really been in a place where you've been making the recommendation that we do this, in large due to the work at the UP Center and also as a byproduct of your continued conversations with stakeholder groups as a part of the design of the Nelson County High School community campus. To be clear, the Nelson County Campus Master Plan proposal is not an approval of anything other than a unique advisory and consulting group coming in to evaluate the whole property. This is not approving the Nelson County Community Campus Plan. It's not approving anything other than an advisory group. I want to clarify that because there were questions about it last time, and that gives some context to the process. In short, this is a way to spend smart money in the short term to save the way we plan long term.
That's correct. As an example, during the Nelson County High School conversations, we had a lot of conversations about future athletics improvements on the site, things that were not in any project we were talking about at that moment, but should be planned for so that none of the work over the next few years makes that future work impossible. So the goal is to have an overall understanding of what can happen on the site, what the topography allows, what the ground conditions allow, so that we can then pursue anything in the shorter term in a smarter way. So the kind of document you will get, it will be a series of plans that look something like the document on the drawing on the right, a series of plans that will each be focused on certain issues like topography, like groundwater, like utility availability, things like that, and each one of them will be describing something to you about what's possible on that piece of land. And you will get a book that describes how it's proposed that different parts of the campus get used. So if you'll move forward. As we've talked about in some of the previous meetings, the campus is significantly larger than what's developed right now. The property to the north has been purchased, which will allow a lot more opportunities and the potential to open up some of the congestion internal to the campus. Another big part of the master planning process will be looking at it for an understanding of traffic flow among all of the facilities on the campus, which is something that's critically needed so that it takes some of the pressure off of 62. So there's the whole campus and what's available for consideration. It doesn't mean that there's a proposal to develop the whole campus, just that it all should be thought about when you're thinking about the south part of campus. So we already have all of the land surveying that we need for the master plan to go ahead. We have a pretty good understanding of the utilities and existing facilities. So everything that we need to provide to STW, who is the planner that we have recommended, we have that material ready to provide them. And what they will then do is assess all of that information, do some analysis, and then come back to the Nelson County community and start having conversations with stakeholder groups that you all determine need to be part of that conversation. And what that will allow us to do in the shorter term is identify where we need to do additional geotechnical exploration for future projects, but also think about, we already anticipate that softball would need to be relocated. Where's the best place to put that so that it doesn't mess up any other future plans, and would allow for design development for the Up Center to move forward, and construction documents for bus maintenance would be affected somewhat by this, although that's a little bit on the periphery. Any other questions? You should have the proposal in your documents. It's STW has described in more detail than I have everything that they would propose to have in what they give to you as a deliverable at the end of the process.
Stephen, is it conceivable that over the next 3 months, this group would potentially present something to the board by June? So it's about a 3-month process at minimum?
I think it's a 3 to 4 month process, but as I've described to some of the folks we've talked to, we're hoping to ask STW for some information in advance so that we can start to have an understanding of what they'll be proposing. And what they're hearing and learning about the site. so that it'll help us, for instance, move the bus maintenance facility forward with confidence and move the Up Center forward with confidence.
And just to clarify, the transportation, the way that was designed partly was assuming that part of our campus really had probably the least demand and the least desire. And in general, our use of that part of our campus for the bus garage was just a pragmatic move.
Correct.
Yeah. So at this point, really, it's allowing for a master plan process of the Nelson County High School Mount Kentucky Home Campus to occur. It would take 3 to 4 months at minimum, and would allow for ongoing conversations about the future use of that campus.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the NCCC master plan as presented by Steve.
One quick question on
sorry.
this. So if I'm looking at the SWT design proposal, it looks like they're estimating that it's at somewhere around $33,000 for them to come up with this community campus master plan proposal for the Nelson County entire campus. Am I looking at that right?
Yes.
I think that was last time.
That's correct.
Too, yeah.
Yeah. And if there are some odds and ends that we as a board ask them to go back and do, it looks like there is a hourly rate addendum that would go on above that, correct? Okay.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay, I need a motion to approve the master plan as presented.
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. I had a motion made by Mr. Jackie, second by Ms. Bowling. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate it. Next, we have the bourbon barrel tax. That would be Superintendent Bradley.
This will be brief. Really just wanted to provide an introductory overview of House Bill 5, which is currently known as the bourbon barrel tax. If you want to learn more about the bourbon barrel tax, there's a lot of information online. I would say if you go to, I think it's barreltax.com, this is not the place to get facts. It's Barrel Tax Facts, but it's this site is organized and facilitated by the Kentucky Distillers Association, who are working on behalf of all distilleries. I'm not saying there's not good information on there. There's some good information on there. At the same time, just know that this website is the primary place I'm going to be referencing for the graph. So all this information is from the Kentucky Distillers Association. This particular graph is the primary graph that's been used to explain the bourbon barrel tax. What this graph shares with you is currently on the left side, the distilled spirits tax generates about $9 million in revenue. And that is anticipated, that's tax revenue to city and counties around Kentucky. That is anticipated to increase exponentially, as you can see. Sorry, that's about $45 million. That's expected to increase exponentially, upwards of $250 million between now and 2039. Now, I'm not saying, just to be clear, that this graph is correct. That's what the graph shows. What this graph also shows, if you look on the left side, is that, and I've added the $5 million in 2022. Currently in Nelson County Schools, we receive almost exactly $5 million in local revenue from the bourbon barrel tax. We receive far more than any other county in the state of Kentucky. Other counties around the state are just beginning to have 3-year-old bourbon in the barrel that can be taxed. What this graph also shows in that orange line is that over the next 10 to 12 years, that even with the current law, House Bill 5 in place, that it is likely that that number would double. That means that between now and then, we would likely move to about $10 million in revenue. This is not, again, this is KDA's graph. I can't say that this is exactly the reality. What it also shows is it dying, it just basically taking a nosedive off over there about to 2039. Now, this is incorrect for schools. So the House Bill 5 that passed the House just a week ago was a hold harmless bill for schools, which means the following. The lowest amount of revenue that schools would generate if the current bill moved on would be $5 million in Nelson County. So in theory, this would hold Nelson County schools harmless. What this really tells you is that House Bill 5 and the bourbon barrel tax allows the Nelson County schools to continue to generate more bourbon barrel tax revenue over the next 10 to 15 years, and then it would taper off between 2034 and 2039 back to where we are today. So why is this bill so controversial? Lots of reasons. In short, it's because any burden that the bourbon industry doesn't take on for taxes, someone else does. So that someone else would be you as local taxpayers. So that's the major concern. The other concern is city and county government are not protected in the current bill. The Nelson County Fiscal Court would lose about $1.7 million locally from this bill. There is one unique piece to the bill is they are claiming that county and city government have other sources of revenue they can generate, other taxes they can use. It just wouldn't be the bourbon barrel tax. So in Nelson County, I do believe next Monday there will be a community forum and a public forum to learn really the details of this. You can also go to PLG and watch the video from just a few weeks ago. It does a nice job of explaining the long history of the bourbon tax and really all the tax credits that are given. But next Monday at the Thomas Nelson Auditorium, I believe, there will be a public forum where you can learn more about the impact of the bourbon tax on counties across Kentucky. I think that'll be led by our county judge. I can't be sure that they're facilitating it, but that's what I was told just yesterday. So just a reminder, we've talked about per pupil funding. We have a unique situation in Nelson County due to the property growth. This is our reality. We're 116th on average in per pupil funding. Part of that is because our state funding is so low compared to other counties due to property values increasing over the last 32 years. It's basic. It's a basic percentage, and wherever you were in 1991 to wherever you are today impacts this. So locally, we generate we're in the 22nd out of all districts in local revenue. Fittingly, we generate almost more money per pupil for facilities than any district in the state of Kentucky, and that number will go higher next year, which is, again, just a coincidence that we're talking a lot about facilities because we do generate a lot of facility money as a part of our triple nickel. And that money is intended to, it's assuming that our community is growing and that we are intended to invest in the community. So I share that to also show you this, which we've talked about. Basically, this graph shows you that in 2010, local taxpayers paid 38% of our school funding in Nelson County. Today, they pay 63%. Notice the right side doesn't add up to 100%. I think it adds up to 98%. This is a general sense of the shift that's occurred. That's occurred because our property values have gone up exponentially in Nelson County as a byproduct of increased wealth, increased industry, the bourbon boom, and other things that continue to impact this Central Kentucky region positively from an economic standpoint. That is, so every year when our money goes up, we lose money from the state. Next year, our property values are going up $400 million. If you take $400 million times it by 0.003 on your phone, that will tell you we're going to lose $1.2 million of state funding, which will make this graph further stretched at the far right end. So in the end, if you're serious about continuing to have students that live, work, and grow in Nelson County, the bourbon barrel tax will be a continued conversation because it is a unique situation that impacts all taxpayers. Whether it impacts school taxes or not, now or into the future, we're not sure. Today, that's not the case. But it will impact other forms of taxes for city and county government that are important to recognize. So by April, we will know if The bill passed the Senate. Today, it's sitting in the A&R committee, and they have not moved on it, but they have a couple days. So that's where we are around this tax. To cut through some of the mythology, I would encourage you to attend Monday if you're interested.
Do you know what time Monday? And you may have said, I just didn't.
I don't know. I'm assuming it's 5:30 or 6.
6?
So when we look at our facility funds and the conversation that's been going over the last 30 days, 40 days, I feel like it's even more important than before to have someone come in that's actually qualified to talk about our facility bonds and what we can afford. Because we know that this barrel tax, whether it goes away now or it goes away next year or it goes away the year after that, they're not going to give up on getting rid of it. We have to insulate ourselves by being more efficient as a district. Again, not to continue to beat a dead horse, but the community campus, as a reminder, put $1.5 million plus back in the general fund, which is basically money that we can use, not for facilities. It can go to other things like teacher salaries and things like that. So keep that in mind when we talk about funding and not being able to afford buildings for students at Boston and New Haven. Keep that in mind.
Okay. That being said, board calendar. Our next item on the agenda, and that will be Superintendent Bradley.
No action to be taken at this point, unless the board calls a meeting between now and April 18th. Our next meeting will be April 18th at Cox's Creek School. We'll be meeting at Bloomfield Middle School on May 16th, and at the Up Center, it looks like June 6th and 13th. Those unique summer meetings include a lot of policy and procedure updates.
Okay, thank you. Next, I need a motion to adjourn the regular session, please.
Actually, before we adjourn, I want to give a celebration out to Ms. Tucker for an amazing job at the egg thing. I lost my train of thought. But also, I want to congratulate everyone for such a successful Pride Games. It was amazing. I know OKH won. And I believe the Bulldogs won the mascot dance-off. Again, that is where our school communities come together and have the opportunity to celebrate each other and celebrate the district. And I'm probably also going to say one more thing, and I can't really talk in detail about it, but I don't know if you all have seen the Kentucky Department of Education website today and the huge celebration going on in this district. Big things are happening. Big things. So again, I can't talk in great detail about it because I'm not as educated as Miss Karen Lee and Miss Laura Arnold, but our district is amazing. Our district leaders are amazing, and we will continue to work hard for our students.
Well, and it's not just off of KD's KentuckyTeacher.org website, but off of Nelson County's website. There was an article posted late this afternoon that had a little bit more of the Nelson County flavor. And what this is about is Nelson County, because of the leadership and having that vision, is the first district in Kentucky to have a teacher apprenticeship program. And what that means is those students that are currently in the Nelson County Education Collab, the only one that off the top of my head I know is Mackenzie Downs, because she sat right next to me at the New Haven Community Forum, and she was telling me about her experiences as a freshman in that collab. It is the first in the whole state of Kentucky, and probably is also a model for the rest of the nation. You know, we talk about teacher shortages. Some of it's because of retirement, some of it because of people being fed up, some of it's because people don't feel supported, some of it's because people are realizing, hey, coming out of the pandemic, I can maybe make more doing something else with less of a headache. This is a real way to combat the teacher shortage versus a bunch of people in Frankfurt getting in a room and trying to come up with an idea. This is locally in our school district. We are actually finding out how to grow our own so that as these students graduate high school, whether Thomas Nelson or Nelson County High School, almost half of their bachelor degree credit hours will already have been achieved. 24 or so hours specific towards that education certification. And then those students also will be able to be employed in the district as they continue to finish out their bachelor's degree. And the hope is they want to stay right here and they want to be educators in the schools that they went to themselves. So, like you said, Ms. Bowling, it's the vision, whether it's Superintendent Bradley or Miss Arnold or Miss Lee or Miss Henderson. I saw her somewhere before. There she is, waving way over there. These are the things that are truly making Nelson County be a place that people do want to come to, because we're getting the recognition for some very visionary things. So kudos to all of those that were involved in making that happen. First one in the state of Kentucky.
And before we adjourn, I will encourage you, Ms. Berry, to do some reflection on what we heard from our guests tonight.
Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn this session, please.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Jackie. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Bowling. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Meeting adjourned.